These recipes are gonna blow your mind. So if you have a box of cake mix in your pantry and you wanna take it to the next level, you are in the right place. Hey y'all, I'm Valerie and welcome to my kitchen. In today's video, I'm sharing 5 doctored up box cake mix recipes that everyone's gonna love. Okay y'all, let's get started. This 2-step apple cake is one you really need to try. To begin, I'm gonna make up a little crumble that goes on top of the cake. In a small bowl, I added 1/2 cup each of granulated and brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of flour, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 3 tablespoons of melted butter. Now give that a good mix. It should look a little crumbly, and this will go on top of the cake before we bake it. Now just set that aside, and in a separate large bowl, you're going to add in 1 box of yellow cake mix. Do make sure this is the 15.25 ounce box. Now to that, we're going to add in 1 can of apple pie filling. And I just stuck my knife down in the can there and just tried to dice those up. If you want to, you can pour it in another bowl and do this, but that way I didn't have any big chunks of apple in there. I missed a few, so I just grabbed my knife and tried to cut up what I could. By the way, if you love box cake mix recipes and you're enjoying this video so far, I would really appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up. It lets me know you want to see more videos like this. And to that cake mix and pie filling, I added 4 eggs. Then you're going to give this a really good mix. I'm making this in a 9x13 inch baking dish, and I do spray it with nonstick spray, or you could even grease it with a little butter. Now just pour in that cake batter, and by the way, it is very thick. That's okay, that's how it's supposed to be. You're just going to spread this out into an even layer, and it does not have to be perfect. Now here's that crumble we made up just a little bit ago. You're just going to sprinkle it across the top of that cake. And just in case you didn't catch when I was making the crumble, I was supposed to add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon into that mixture. So when you make this, don't forget the cinnamon. And it was about here that I realized that I did forget the cinnamon. So I just sprinkled it all over the top, and it turned out just fine. And if you wanted to, I bet it would be really good if you threw in some apple pie spice. You could add it to the crumble, or you could even add it to the cake batter. Now this goes into the oven to bake at 350 for 30 to 40 minutes. When it was done, I did a little extra. I made a little glaze for it with some powdered sugar, vanilla, and just a splash of milk. And I just drizzled that over the top. I served this warm, topped with vanilla ice cream. You could even drizzle over some caramel sauce. That would be so good. This cake was absolutely delicious. My family went crazy over it, and I'm telling you, I will be making it again. I seen this strawberry poke cake on TikTok, and I had to try it for y'all. And all it took was 4 ingredients. In a large bowl, I'm adding in 1 box of strawberry cake mix. And this time, we are going to mix this cake mix according to the directions on the back of the box. I used milk instead of water. I always add in an extra egg. I added the oil and a little splash of vanilla. Then you're just going to mix this for a couple minutes until it's well combined. You'll need a 9x13 baking dish. Spray it with some nonstick spray, and y'all know my favorite is the Baker's Joy. I'm just curious, do y'all do the nonstick spray, or do you grease it with Crisco or butter and then dust it with flour? And you just pour in that cake batter and even it out. Okay, now this goes into the oven to bake according to the directions on the back of the box. And when it's done, I let it cool off for just a few minutes.
I thought I would throw in a little bonus footage for y'all. If you're new, this is my daughter Lainey. She loves to snap, so she's showing y'all her little snapping fingers. She's growing up way too fast now. She's 14 months now. I told her to wave bye-bye to y'all. She is ready for some of this cake. Now back to the recipe. I just let that cake cool for about 5 minutes. Then you're going to poke holes all over the top of that. The mixture I'm going to pour over the top of this is a bit thinner. So when it's like that, I do like to make my holes tinier, but I do make a lot of holes in there. Now in a medium-sized bowl, I added in a 15.5 ounce container of frozen strawberries with sugar. And I did let those thaw out completely before I used them. Now you're going to add in 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. Then you're going to mix this together as best as you can. And it does take a minute, but keep stirring, it'll come together. Now you're just going to pour that mixture over the top. Now I have had a little incident before where I just dumped the mixture on top of the cake and it ran all out over the sides. So to avoid that, you can pour it a little at a time. And after each little bit, you can just try to work it down into those holes. It does try to run down away from the middle towards the sides, so I just keep pushing it back up to the middle there. And I'm telling you, this little mixture here was delicious, so I wasn't about to waste any of it. While I'm thinking about it, if you're new, I would really love to have you here. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. That way, you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Oh, and I did try to spread those strawberries out, that way they were kind of evenly distributed. And over the top of that, we're adding 8 ounces of thawed whipped topping. And when you're spreading this out, that strawberry mixture underneath does make this kind of want to slide all over the place. So I found it easier just to use my offset spatula. I just put it on there and gradually spread it to that outside edge. I was trying to do a cute little design here, but it's completely not necessary. You could even top this with some fresh strawberries. Now, if you're impatient, you can eat this right away, but I like it best when I refrigerate it for at least 4 to 6 hours, or even better, overnight. This cake was so good. I bet it would even be good made with a box of lemon cake mix and be kind of like a strawberry lemonade poke cake. This would be perfect to make for a summer cookout. You could make it for a potluck or even a church get-together. We loved this one. And y'all gotta tell me below, what is your favorite summer dessert flavor? Alright y'all, this cinnamon roll dump cake blew my mind. Go ahead and grab a 9x13 baking dish. This one only has 5 ingredients, so it's gonna go quick. I'm using 2 of the 12.4 ounce cans of cinnamon rolls. Use whichever kind you like. I'm using a cream cheese and an original just because that's what I had on hand. And you're gonna take each cinnamon roll and cut it into 4 pieces. And you just wanna make sure you get them in there and spread out evenly to cover the entire bottom of that dish. And here's the little icing packets. Just hang on to them and we'll drizzle them over the top of the cake when it's done. Now on the top of those cinnamon rolls, you're going to dollop 12 ounces of whipped cream cheese. You can just use a spoon to do this, but I use my cookie scoop to make it a little bit easier. And I did smaller dollops just so I could get it spread out a little better. Then on top of that, you're going to sprinkle over 1 cup of chopped pecans. I'm using the Krusteaz Cinnamon Swirl Crumb Cake and Muffin Mix. It's a 21 ounce box. Inside it has 2 bags, 1 bag of the cake mix and 1 bag of the cinnamon sugar mix. First, we're going to take that cake mix and sprinkle it evenly over the top of all that cream cheese, cinnamon roll, pecan stuff. And I'm sure y'all can tell already that this is going to be really, really good. Now you're going to sprinkle over that cinnamon sugar mixture. And next I'm going to put butter over the top of this, so I did try to even everything out just so the butter wouldn't sink down into a little hole there. If the surface is even, you have less of a chance of having any dry spots left, because you want that butter to cover everything. Now we're laying down 1.5 sticks of thinly sliced butter. Now this goes into the oven to bake at 350 for 40 to 45 minutes. And you'll know it's done when the top gets a little golden brown. My house was smelling so good from this. We could not wait for it to come out of the oven. In fact, I was so excited that I got me some in a bowl here. I topped it with ice cream, drizzled it with caramel sauce, and completely forgot the little icing packets that came in the cinnamon rolls. And just so you know, this is good with or without that icing on top. This was so easy to put together. It came together super fast. So if you love cinnamon rolls or anything cinnamon flavored, you're gonna love this. And when I realized I left the icing off, I went ahead and added it to the rest here. I really hope you give this one a try. I've made a ton of cake mix cookies, but never just the regular cake mix chocolate chip cookies, so I figured it was time. In a large bowl, I added a 15-ounce box of yellow cake mix. You could also use yellow or even the butter golden. Next, you're going to add in 2 eggs and half a cup of oil. I also threw in just a little splash of vanilla. You can do this by hand, but I'm using my electric mixer, and you're going to mix it until it's just combined. Don't overmix it. And to finish these off, I'm adding in 2 cups of semi-sweet chocolate chips. And I saved a little handful to press on top of the cookies just to make them look pretty. This batter is super thick, just like cookie dough, and we're just folding in those chocolate chips. I'm using a cookie sheet for this, and I have mine lined with a silicone liner. To make it easier and to make sure all these cookies are the same size, I'm just using a cookie scoop. And this one I used here was a 2-inch cookie scoop. Now these go into the oven to bake at 350 for 12 minutes. When they're done, you'll notice just around the edges, a tiny bit of the edges will be slightly golden brown. They may not look done on the top, but trust me, they are. You just don't want to overbake these. I took mine out at 12 minutes and that was perfect. I know how y'all like to see the insides of these, so I had to break one for you. If you've ever had a cake mix cookie, then you know the texture. But they're soft and dense on the inside and a little crispy on the outside. They were perfect. And my Mima was over this day and she loved these. Lacey loved them too. Everyone's still raving about these orange butter cake bars. I was craving some gooey butter cake. I had an orange cake mix on hand, and here we are. To a large bowl, you're going to add in a 15.25 ounce box of orange cake mix, along with 1 egg and 1 stick of melted butter. This is going to be the cookie layer for the bottom of these bars. And you're going to mix it until just combined. It will be crumbly, super thick, but that's fine. That's how it's supposed to be. As long as you can press it into that dish, you're good to go. You're going to grab a 9x13 baking dish or a pan. And y'all, I was so excited to make these, I completely forgot to line the bottom of my pan. I always try to line it with aluminum foil or parchment paper. That way I can lift them out when they're done. It's so much easier to cut that way. I pressed it evenly into the bottom of that dish and then I set it aside. Now we're making the gooey cheesecake mixture. In that same bowl, I added 8 ounces of softened cream cheese. And make sure it's softened. If it's not, just pop it in the microwave for a few seconds to soften it up. I also added 1 stick of melted butter, 2 eggs, 2 tablespoons of orange zest. It was a zest from 1 whole big orange, and 4 cups of powdered sugar. And it is a little easier to mix if you add that powdered sugar just a little bit at a time. And you're just gonna mix it until there's no more lumps and that cream cheese and powdered sugar are completely and well combined. Because you want this part smooth and creamy. When you get that mixed up nice and really smooth, you're gonna grab that baking dish with the bottom layer and you're gonna pour that cheesecake mixture right on top. Have y'all ever had the butter cake bars? I love them, and I've done them in several other different flavors. I have to say though, this was probably my favorite, and you do want to make sure you spread this out. Now this goes into the oven to bake at 350 for 40 to 45 minutes. You can see that top is a little golden brown, and if you shake it, that middle will still be slightly jiggly, but it'll be set around the edges. And I let these completely cool before I cut them into squares. And if you want, after you let them completely cool, you can pop them in the refrigerator to chill. That helps them actually to cut so much easier. And I'm telling you, these were like a 20 out of 10. Just make sure you don't overbake them. You don't want to burn that cookie layer on the bottom. But the texture of that bottom layer is crunchy, and that top cheesecake layer is nice and chewy and gooey. And yes, that orange flavor took these to a whole nother level. These were absolutely amazing.
I really hope you enjoyed this video. You may also like these. Don't forget to subscribe down below for more box cake mix recipes, and I will see you in the next one.